everyone. Today we're going to look at Napoleon and his impact, what he does in France, and how it affects the world beyond. In order to do that, I really want to just recap all the things that we've spoken about thus far in the French Revolution. We saw that the third estate's discontent with the social order is a large contributing factor to the frustration that's going to erupt into this violence. It starts out pretty moderate, and then they write a constitution, Declaration of the Rights of Man, and then you have this, where they actually try and execute the king. That, again, was done by the radicalist group, the Jacobins, initially led by Marat, who was killed by a woman, stabbed to death, and then Robespierre takes over. That's pretty much where we left off, the Reign of Terror and the fact that they then let the Directory come to power, which is very weak by design, but unfortunately creates an opening for the man that we're going to focus on today. And that is Napoleon Bonaparte. Napoleon is going to be a prominent figure and have a tremendous impact on Europe and the world around him. So let's look at the objectives. And again, if you need to, you can pause it here so that you can write these all down and then come back and join me. But we're going to look to be able, this is what you have to be able to do. You have to be able to discuss with me Napoleon's lasting legacy, and you also have to be able to make a judgment, evaluate it, basically determine what you feel are the most important aspects of his legacy and be able to defend them if asked in a written statement. You also are going to define the balance of power, and you're going to look at the effects of the Congress of Vienna on Europe and its future. So these are the items that we will spend most of our time on in this. And again, objectives are the things that you need to know and be able to do. So we're going to take a look first at not this Napoleon, right? He's not the Napoleon that we're going to be talking about, but this Napoleon Bonaparte. He, from the picture, you can probably tell, is a tremendous war hero, celebrated in battle, won even most times when he was outnumbered, and the only times he lost, it was because he was outnumbered. So how does this man, who started off life in very humble beginnings, who didn't have the upbringing that you would expect, and only got to go to military school on the generosity of a family friend. So how does this man come to power and come to control all of Europe, basically, in that short period of time? So Napoleon, as we said, was a great military hero. France was fighting, and by his late 20s, Napoleon is a general, and that's unheard of. He leads the French into these battles in which they should be beaten. There is a coalition of nations against them, and he is making the French army successful. So the people love him, and when he comes home, he's coming home a hero. In 1799, he comes back and helps overthrow the Directory, that weak five-man government, gets rid of them. And in 1800, he holds what we call a plebiscite. A plebiscite is it's a vote, and it's a vote of all the people. And the idea was to approve a new constitution, and they also overwhelmingly voted in favor of the constitution, but that gave him power. So by 1804, he takes the title of Emperor of France. And in doing this, I want you to think critically about the fact that what does this do to the ideals of the French Revolution? And is he going to still uphold some of the Enlightenment ideals that were begun in that period? So again, going through this French Revolution, you can kind of see all of these people dying, and now you have another emperor on the throne, like a king. Emperor Napoleon there in his coronation, so you see him. Now, what does he do when he comes to power? And again, pause it once everything comes up so that you can stay with me. But what is it that the man is going to do? Okay, and the main thing he's going to do is bring order back to France. He's going to put things back in order. He's going to make the people feel like they have some semblance of normalcy again. He's going to do that by strengthening the French central government, meaning his own power, okay? He also is going to focus tremendously on the economy. He's going to set up a fairer tax code. He sets up a national bank. He stabilizes French currency so that the value of it stays the same, and he loans money to businesses to help them get started. He also improves public education by setting up schools called the lycées, where they're public schools. And because he was educated, he realizes what a pathway it is for everyone else to be able to do their best. Napoleonic Code, he sets up a legal code that is 7 codes, guides all of these laws, and we're going to see it even in present-day New Orleans. They still follow a basic Napoleonic code. They're based on Enlightenment ideas. He also inspires nationalism among his own people, and nationalism is that pride in and devotion to one's country. He does it among the French people because of his military victories. They love him, and they love France, and they see how strong he's making France. And so France is the best, baddest, biggest country in the world, and they're proud of it. On the flip side, when he conquers people, he makes them accept his ideas. And that's going to make those people angry and make them want to get rid of him. So the Code Napoleon, the Napoleonic Code, he tries to put into place into every country that he goes in and takes over, and they don't like it. They want their own government, their own country's ways. And so his inspiring of nationalism is both unifying for the French people, because it brings the French people together, but it's divisive to his own empire because these people he's taking over want to overthrow him. So he's got a dualistic nationalism there where it's doing two different things that countermand each other, really. So we know that Napoleon's not going to be in power for long, 1804 to 1815. We really want to look at why and what happens to bring him down, because the people love him. It's not through his own people that he's leaving. It's everybody else. So 1804 to 14, he's fighting throughout Europe. Those wars that he fought in have not ended. They keep going. He wins just about all of Europe except for Great Britain. And what that does is it makes his empire rather large. The problem is he inspires this nationalism among these people that he conquers that leads them to want to revolt against him. And then in 1812, he makes a huge, crucial strategic error by invading Russia and gets stuck there in the wintertime. The Russians just used what they called scorched earth policy, and scorched earth meant that they would burn absolutely everything of any possible use or value to the invading army on their way, retreating further and further into Russia, so that they drive you deeper, they draw you deeper into Russia. You're getting further and further into there and in the Russian winter, and then they burn anything that you could possibly use. So your army's going to essentially start out and die. After that, within 2 years, his countrymen are starting to say, you need to go, and they force him to step down. But his army is still loyal to him. So he's exiled to the island of Elba off the coast of France and Italy. And in 1815, he returns triumphantly to France for what they call the 100 Days of Napoleon. He comes back, and he rules and leads his army, and they fight their way through France, and he establishes control once again, albeit for a brief period of 100 days. So, again, they're scared, right? I mean, Napoleon has run roughshod over all of Europe, and now, even after being defeated and kicked back and exiled, he is back. Okay, so think about the psychological power that's going to have over the countries that he's dealing with and over the people that oppose him. So the unfortunate thing for Napoleon is after the European, he goes from being depicted like that to being depicted like this, riding a donkey backwards. This depicts for you that scorched earth policy, the Russians burning absolutely everything of any value, and the army kind of striving to try to find something they can use, even going so far as to eat their own horses and, bury themselves deep in there for their meat. After he's forced to abdicate, this is a painting that was done of him. And this is another painting done to represent the 100 days when he comes back to his troops. And here we have Napoleon at Waterloo facing his certain defeat at the Duke of Wellington's hands, and that's the Duke of Wellington. So he had a triumphant and tragic life. I mean, looking at everything that he had done. They exile him again this time to the island of St. Helena, which is in the South Atlantic, and it is there that he is going to die. Now, in the aftermath of Napoleon, when he's gone, the European leaders in place at the time are absolutely terrified of another Napoleon. They want to make sure that no one country gets too much power again. And in order to prevent such an occurrence and trying to keep France neutralized and keep it weak so that it can't do these things to the other countries, they're going to do what country leaders seem to do best. and that is have a meeting, have a conference, a congress, they call it, to sit and speak with each other and try to plan out how they're going to approach dealing with France and the countries that France had taken in the aftermath of Napoleon's defeat. Napoleon's gone for good this time, and they want to make sure nobody else sprouts up to take his place among the European countries and try to dominate Europe. And so this is a picture, a cartoon from the time period of the Congress of Vienna, and you see them pulling the map apart. Another cartoon of the time, Congress of Vienna, and this is the idea that they want is a balance of power. Make sure no one country gets too much power. This is Clemens von Metternich. Metternich emerges as the leader of the Congress of Vienna. He is an Austrian. He's the Prince of Austria, the ostensive leader. And he is the one who's really leading things at the Congress of Vienna because it was his coalition that was responsible for defeating Napoleon, so he feels that he should have the biggest say. So what you see here as they get listed is that they are going to be pretty much in order of power at the conference. So, and these are not all the countries involved, but these are the main ones driving the policy. The first is Austria under Prince Metternich. The second is Russia under Tsar Alexander I. Tsar is their title, the king. And Britain is under Lord Castlereagh. R-A-G-H is actually pronounced R-A-Y. And then France under Maurice Talleyrand. Now, if you look at that list, who do you think is the one that no one's really going to pay much attention to? They're there to essentially give the illusion that it's going to be fair and balanced. And that would be Talleyrand, because France is not going to have much say here. France is going to be told exactly what's going to happen to it in the aftermath of what has gone on and what Napoleon did. So when these men meet, and again, there are other countries there, but they do not have the voice that these people have. So this Congress of Vienna is going to have several distinct goals, meaning things that it wants to accomplish by meeting and to make their policy in the coming years. The Congress of Vienna had this vision, and these leaders, remember, Metternich, the Tsar, they are all people with absolute power who have controlled their countries as monarchs. And so think about the government structure they want to see replaced. It's going to be monarchy. They want to go back to the monarchy. But you have to consider what has happened. The people have a taste. Napoleon definitely was an emperor. I mean, he had incredible control. But he also did things to secure the rights of the people and to provide them with a way of making a living, getting an education, all of these things that are positive for them and kind of erase some of those social inequalities. So for these men to want to go back to the monarchs, keep in mind they're dealing with people who don't want that. So first goal is to turn back the hands of time to 1792 prior to the execution of the king and queen and put those monarchs back on their thrones. They also want the maintenance of a balance of power in Europe, keep all of the countries in check so that no one gets stronger than any other. That particularly means they want to weaken France and put it in check by making the countries around it very, very strong. In order to accomplish all this, they actually sit down with the map of Europe and they start to redraw it. They start to plan out the lines and the boundaries and put them in different places. And thinking about what that's going to mean, you're physically talking about them drawing new borders and creating new countries. Think about how people might react to these new countries and these new borders. So these are the things that they want to accomplish at this Congress of Vienna. Metternich is the one really pushing everything, okay? And what you guys are going to see is that Metternich wants to contain France, which we know. So to do that, they're going to make the Austrian Netherlands and the Dutch Republic go together to form Kingdom of the Netherlands. They're going to take 39 German separate states that were loosely joined and create them, call them the German Confederation under the control of Austria. Okay, so there is no Germany. Switzerland is there is an independent nation, and the Kingdom of Sardinia and Italy is going to get added on the state of Genoa. So you're seeing a lot of changes here. And again, you'll look at the map and you'll recreate the map so that you understand and can physically see what's going to happen. But looking at it, there's plenty of reasons why people would be frustrated with Metternich in the aftermath of this Congress of Vienna. This shows you the Congress, and it's kind of, who are the three who are dancing and who are the ones who are going to be angry. And as promised, this is the map. You see that there is no Italy on that map. There is no Germany on that map. You're talking about, and then you see the Ottoman Empire, the Austrian Empire. So the number of countries, if you take this map and compare it to today, is starkly and drastically different. Okay, and that's something that you should see here. Looking at the map, if you take a map of Europe now and look at it and compare it to this, you're talking about a lot less countries. So, potential problems with this Congress of Vienna. What are the people going to be angry about? Lots. But most of what they're angry about is going to stem from this major problem with the Congress of Vienna. And that is the fact that they did not consider cultural and ethnic differences when they're building in these boundary lines on the map. They did not look at who gets along with one another. What is the past history between these people? What countries have a really strong cultural identity and want to remain free and independent and only in control of themselves? And so, as people are put into new countries and put under the power of countries that they might not like or respect or have anything culturally in common with, it's going to inspire nationalism. And nationalism, we saw it very clearly with Napoleon, can unite people towards one common cause, right? So it could unite, say for instance, the Germans to want one Germany. Problem is that divide, so it can be divisive, the Austrian Empire, which Germany is a part of. And so it's a double-edged sword sometimes, because one country fighting and getting its freedom leads to the division of another empire that had previously contained that country. So when we look at the Congress of Vienna, this is a serious problem, and it's one that is going to continue to plague Europe all the way up through and into World War I. Okay? So take one last look at the map, and again, you're going to recreate the map on your own in comparison between this and under Napoleon. And then later on, we'll kind of look at it in comparison to that of after World War I. So again, Congress of Vienna, Napoleon's legacy, should be able to explain both of those things in depth. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in class, and obviously we'll do much more with this when we see each other. Have a great day.